Query.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big chunk of the creatures.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if we brought in the Parish here.
And
It could be really good.
Moving
The
now
Jits
to
are really
Lewis
good too.
and to Corbin. Now,
He also has Submerge.
he has Submerge?
He
Oh
does.
my god, Submerge plus Perish is just really impressive. Now, obviously, Mother of Runes can protect from a Submerge if it's ready, if it's available. But on the other side of the table, we have much less that's exciting in the sideboard. We've got Path to Exile. Path to Exile will help him tear down the Lords, and tearing down those Lords is important. But giving the Merfolk deck more mana, there's not much actual, lands in this deck. He only has 2 islands, so actually after the first path, given that it's likely that that Corbin will search for a basic land, the other paths are just going to be Swords to Plowshares plus.
Top 4 is 10 for Legacy, 15 for Standard.
I really like Louis Laskin's sweater. With the Freddy Krueger sweater. He's ready to rip things up. Says claw out. I mean, we're talking about these cards from Corbin's deck, but in the same right, we have to remember that Lewis has Sword of Fire and Ice in his main deck to go with the Stoneforge Mystics. Lewis has been chewing up Merfolk decks all day, and I don't think he's been playing against black Merfolk decks, especially not black Merfolk decks with Perish, but he's been beating them with such regularity that I would not be surprised if he was able to take this down fairly easily.
Is a high roll okay? There's not.
No splits.
All or nothing.
I didn't want to win. How much was it? 700? 700.
I'm going for 2,000.
It's Corbin. He's pretty excited about this deck here.
I only need to sit in one seat.
Now, is there anything different in the main deck between him and Saito? I mean, was Saito running Spell Snare or Spell Pierce?
I believe he had Spell Snares. I'm not 100% positive.
I'm not 100% sure either, but I feel like there were Spell Snares. Let's do a quick check.
I'm pretty sure we're fighting against each other. I'm sure I punted against you.
Saito had Spell Pierce, I think, actually. I'm thinking about it again.
Actually, I'm looking at the list here, and I see... this might be a...
No, that's an old list.
That's an older list, my bad.
Yeah, I think there are like swords in there.
Is this August? That was this August. Yeah, this is the right one.
That phone's our ticket.
Yes.
Saito had
3 Spell Pierce.
3 Spell Pierce, that's correct.
So his main deck is absolutely identical to Saito's. He swaps some fetch lands, but besides that, it's 100% the same. His sideboard is different. He has an extra Perish. He has 1 less Tormod's Crypt. He has 1 less Nature's Ruin. He has 1 less Engineered Plague. He has an extra Lawin, Cephalid Edpress. He actually has 2 of that card. We've seen that card a lot today. So it seems like Merfolk decks that have been playing that card have been doing well, which is probably because they're playing a lot of mirrors.
For those of you who are just joining us right now, this is Adrian Sullivan with Star City Games Live, bringing you live coverage of the Kansas City Legacy Open Series. And I'm here with the inimitable Jacob Van Lunen, and we're watching the semifinal matchup between Louis Laskin playing the Green and Taxes deck and Corbin Hosler playing Black-Blue Merfolk in the ilk of Tomohiro Saito.
So Corbin is a writer. He builds innovative decks, and he's a big fan of blue-white decks. That's normally his thing. So today we're seeing him play a different version of Merfolk. Blue-white Merfolk is certainly a deck, but he eschewed that for the blue-black version.
We just want to attack. That's what it is. I want to
With deciding some mulligans real quick. Lewis won the die roll. He leads off with a land and passes the turn. Looks like he's sandbagging a pair of wastelands in his hand. Those could be great.
Is it a pair? I only see 1.
I may be mistaken. It may be a Savannah and a Wasteland.
No Aether Vial from either player on the first turn.
I think Lewis has
He's just
a
drawn
Vial
one.
here
He's
for the
just
second
drawn one
turn.
for the second turn.
Yeah.
Floating blue.
Now, as I've said earlier, we've watched 2 of Lewis's matches already today. So this is the 3rd time we've gotten to feature him. We've featured him more than any other player today. And every time we've watched him, he has severely outplayed his opponent. He's hook, line, and sinkered, fooled them into playing the exact way he needed them to play, and made the direct line of plays he needed to win. I think he probably feels that he deserves to win this tournament. I'm sure he's very happy with his play. I certainly think this is this really great tournament for him, and he should be proud of himself regardless of the result.
We had this conversation last night.
It's interesting that Corbin, a somewhat innovative deck builder, is playing a deck that is somewhat mainstream. It's interesting. There weren't many blue-black Merfolk decks here, despite it winning the Grand Prix so recently. Now Lewis is always brewing up new decks. I was hanging out with Lewis the other night, and he had a really awesome blue-red Painter Servant deck that he had worked on with Michael Poske and Caleb Durward and a few others. He was really excited about it, but he decided that this deck was the correct choice. I saw him last at 4 a.m. last night, and he was set on the blue-red Painter Servant deck. I showed up this morning at 7 a.m. He walks in at 9 a.m. and he looks at me and he goes, I audibled. And I was like, what are you playing? And he's like, green-white Mengar of Karandor. And I wasn't completely sold at first. I didn't think it was the best idea, but here he is in the top 4, and things are looking pretty good. So he has done a great job proving me wrong.
Absolutely. One of the things I hadn't considered before this match actually got underway is the way that a Kasali Pride Mage can actually really get an edge on the Vial Wars that are liable to happen in this matchup. I mean, because they're both using these as a really, really powerful way to kind of sneakily get mana advantage, essentially. It's not really mana, but effectively mana.
Yeah, using those vials to their maximum potential is just so huge. Lewis is probably going to play this Mangara and pass the turn. I don't think he needs to leave the swords up, but I mean, he is all-knowing today, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did something that surprised me. On the board right now, Lewis has a Savannah. That's a beta Savannah. Looks pretty nice to me. A Plains and a Wasteland, alongside a pair of Kasali Pride Mages, an Aether Vial on 2, and Corbin has 2 Silvergill Adepts and 2 islands. He's currently using a fetch land, and he's probably just going to find another basic island. Huh. Interesting. Corbin decides to go with an Underground Sea, despite the Wasteland in play for Lewis. Lewis is liable to use the Wasteland because he has a Vial.
Okay.
It seems that Corbin, I think, he probably only has 2 islands in the list.
Yeah, those are the only 2 islands.
Okay, so that would probably be why he did not fetch another basic island in the face of that Wasteland. Corbin uses a Wasteland to destroy Lewis's Savannah, and now we have a board where both players are going to have a lot of trouble casting their spells.
Well, you know, excuse me, Corbin is, I think, a lot better off when it comes to casting them, because all it'll take for him is just 1 mana, and he'll be able to drop a whole bunch of things, whereas Lewis, at this point, is basically living off of the Vial for now.
Yeah, Corbin's going to get in there for 4, and Lewis will be happy to take that damage.
Here comes a potential. There we go.
It's a Coral Home
Command.
Commander.
That can become a flyer in a moment.
I mean, that's just going to get swords immediately, in my opinion.
Well, then, there's the thought of a daze. I think he can wait and then see if he can get a land so that can hit. And there's the land.
Right, there's certainly value in playing around those dazes. This will be nice too because Lewis can pass the turn and force Corbin to like dump some mana into that Coral Hum Commander. Corbin probably won't want to trade the Coral Hum.
I mean, I think part of the problem with doing that, though, is that you really set up a possibility that a Force of Will be drawn. I mean, maybe you risk it, but...
The thing is, I mean, Corbin already had the Force of Will, but...
we should be careful about how loud we're speaking.
Okay,
Yeah.
Corbin already had the
We don't have
Force
to
of
go
Will,
down to,
but...
to that low, but...
Yeah, Corbin already had the Force of Will, but I feel like Lewis should... Like, the swords getting forced is still just so incredible here.
Absolutely.
Like, you get 2 cards from your opponent, and right now you're trying to fight back into the game, because as far as cards go, you're pretty far behind. Your opponent played 2 Silver Gill Adepts, they cantrip, they get him ahead. Right now, Lewis really needs something like a Stoneforge Mystic. That would be very key.
That Marrow Regery is a tempting target for Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, it's about as good as it gets.
Like, the thing about this is there's so much redundancy for Corbin in terms of scary cards. All of those lords do very different kinds of work. The Lord of Atlantis is the cheap one, but it doesn't do as much work as the others. The others are more difficult to actually get use out of, but they can do things like go flying or explode the mana out with a Regery, or use it to suppress your ability to defend.
Yeah, the standard Merfolk decks for a while used Regery to almost combo out their hands often. The Regery can also be used to tap down your opponent's team to get through beyond blockers. Especially when you're ahead in the race. It's really useful.
The first Swords to Plowshares, a Force of Will takes
Meets a
out
Force of Will.
I think, can't tell if that's another Regery. I think it might be another Regery. Once again, for those of you joining us, this is the semi-final match between Lewis Laskin playing Taxes and Corbin Hosler playing the Saito Merfolk list. I'm Adrian Sullivan, and I'm here with Jacob Van Lunen. Okay, it's taking a hit there for 6.
I like that he took the damage there. I think that's
Yeah,
correct.
here comes Mangara. And Mangara is gonna... Oh, what does it do?
What is this? Who is this human wizard? Wow. Lewis, it looks like he may have just drawn
Oh, boy.
Caracas.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's exciting.
Yes.
I believe Lewis has another Mangar in his hand as well.
Wow.
Not that it's at all necessary, but
And in comes the Pride Mage again, beating for a hefty 4.
yeah, this puts Corbin down to 5 life, which is pretty precarious in this situation.
What do you think of this situation right here of letting the Merfolk the Marrow Regery stay out as a potential card to tap down blockers?
Yeah, I mean, Regery is definitely his route to victory here. I think I may have killed the Regery during my main phase.
I think killing the Regery right away would have been pretty effective.
This is real magic. No blocking. Just turn sideways and ignore the other person's creatures. What do you get,
Okay. We'll see what comes of it. There's a lot to think about here.
Yeah, this is a pretty complex board state. For those of you who can't see it clearly, Louis Laskin has 2 Kasali Pride Mages in play. One is tapped and one is untapped. He has a Mangar of Karandor, and he has an Aether Vial on 3 counters, so he can be using it with the Vial. There's a Karakas in play alongside 2 planes. Louis has an additional Mangar in his hand. Corbin has a Marrow Regery, 2 Silvergill Adepts, a Coilhelm Commander, and 4 land. Corbin has a Lord of Atlantis in his hand. It's a very close game. It's super tight. The slightest mistake by either player could end this game.
Not enough? Well, hey, you know what? We only have 90 minutes, so I'd really appreciate it if you stopped asking questions. Just turn them all sideways and see what happens.
I do.
Lewis is joking with his opponent, saying, "We only have 90 minutes. I'd really appreciate it if you if you could speed up a little bit right now."
I bet I have no idea what it is.
Lewis is encouraging his opponent to just turn everything sideways and see what happens.
Oh, what do you know?
How rocky. Or when it does say all Merfolk creatures.
It does say that on the card. Tapping down solid.
Okay.
All right, so
Lord
Corbin
of
plays the Lord of
Atlantis,
Atlantis,
tapping down a Kasali
taps
Pride
down the
Mage.
Pride Mage.
In comes the Mutavault. That's a lot of damage.
Comes the damage. All right, now what Lewis is probably going to do here is going to flash in the 1 Mangara. He's going to block with both Mangars.
Well, now Mangar is a legend.
Oh, Mangara's a legend. Ooh, so is this just lethal?
I'm pretty sure that I'm dead.
He can block.
I counted 9 going through, not counting the card.
Right. But the card in my hand could be anything.
It could
Could even be a boat.
be. You beat me to that.
God, Safe Passage would be such a blowout.
Lewis is joking that he has safe passage in his hand.
If it is, I don't want
He's
it.
just slow rolling it.
However, days you get your safe passage.
That's pretty good.
All right, so this could just be the end of the game. Corbin used the triggered ability on the Marrow Regery and was able to tap down the Pride Mage. This may have been Lewis's first mistake that I've seen watching him all day today. I feel like if he had used that Mangar on his main phase, he really
Yep, right there.
he could have won that game. They're on to game 2.
Just the first game.
Probably.
I would have said
This is
Probably.
Corbin may be ahead now. I feel like game 1 was certainly in Lewis's favor, but post board, cards like Submerge, Engineered Plague, and
It says other, but it is a
Perish are all very good. Engineered Plague is especially good, but that's kind of that's something that a lot of players haven't realized. I've seen multiple players with Engineered Plague in their board not bringing it in against Lewis.
So if we go back just half a second too, though, I just want to really kind of note that if he had done the main phase removal of the Regery, he would have gone down to 1 on the attack. The Lord would have been able to come down, activate the Mutavault, attack with 4 creatures. He would have the ability to have 2 blockers because he could bring into play with the Aether Vial one of the. If he had another 3-drop, that'd be great. But at least the Mangar of Condor into, or however you say that,
Yeah,
into
he
play.
had
We almost
That would
missed
put
2
him
copies of it total. He had
at
1 in play and 1 in his
life,
hand.
and actually still under real duress because there would still be a Lord and
you do have to, yeah, you do have to champion.
4 Merfolk if you include the Mutavault, and he would only have Kasali Pride Mage times 2
But you don't time mark them.
as his defense,
Tough life.
and an opponent at still a fair amount of life. So even if he had made the,
totally
what we
go,
think might be the
quick and
correct play,
obliterate.
it still was looking pretty bad for him.
Quicken and obliterate.
That's true, but his opponent can't really go. Was his opponent at 5 on the last turn there?
His opponent was at 5. So
Okay, so he probably lost either way.
yeah.
The 2 Silvergill Adepts were just so key there. The fact that he was able to like cantrip through, pick up the extra cards, it made it much harder for Lewis to play Nutrition War. Lewis also just didn't draw the cards that he wants to draw in the matchup. Like he didn't see a Stoneforge Mystic, he didn't see a Mother of Runes.
I mean, I'm gonna
He kind of
actually
drew
say-
some awkward cards.
Aside from the tactical situation, I think there might have been a real strategic mistake in attempting to race the Silvergill.
I commandeered your
I
chair.
think that if he had not been attempting to race it, I'm pretty sure that what we'd have is a lot more life for both players, but then a Mangara Aether Vial fighting against a deck that can't really stop it in that game.
I'm a judge.
That's really interesting. I mean, most players are trained to not trade with things like Silver Gillident. It feels so bad.
Once it's on the table, it's on the table. It already did its work.
I don't know if you guys
Yeah, I
heard
understand. I
earlier,
try to.
but,
You think about it as a 2/1, and you forget the fact that it cantripped. But just again, trading with a random 2/1, you're playing it's like
it's
you're playing against a Merfolk deck, and you know your opponent might have cards like Jit, and you know they certainly have cards like Vile. I mean, it seems.
Like you play Mental Magic and you're just like, oh man, like Snowball Hacker isn't very good anymore.
You also
Now
want to hold
Exploration's
on to
pain,
that.
you're just like, oh, wait.
That Pride Mage as long as possible to take advantage of the Exalted triggers.
Well, and like Mental Magic, just because it's like incredibly broken. Because you start like turn 1 Exploration, then turn 2 your Turf Wounding, return and squeeze your hand for yourself.
We allow everything. Fast Mod is the best card in the format.
Oh, Vintage Mental Magic's different because you just kill them.
Okay.
It's awesome.
We've got them shuffling up right
It's
now,
leveling muck.
getting
High
ready
tide.
for the
Like
second
number-
game.
go crazy.
And for those of you joining us just now, this is Adrian Sullivan.
And I'm Jacob Van Loon.
We're here in Kansas City for the opening of the 2011 season of the Star City Games Legacy Open Series. This morning, the Standard Open was won by Boros.
I played a game
with,
of Two-Headed Giant Mental Magic.
Pat McGregor.
Pat McGregor, thank you.
No problem. He has been to 2 Star City Games Open Series events, and he has won 2 Star City Games Open events. He won a Legacy event, and now he's won a Standard event.
Maybe instead he's been to 2 weekends.
Well, he's been to 2 weekends, and he's won 2 events, so he's 2 for 4 on open weekend events. But he also went to the Invitational and arrived late, receiving a round 1 match loss, and he was able to pull it together and end up top 8ing that tournament anyway. And Charles Gindy eventually dispatched him. But it's not too shabby to be dispatched in a mirror match against a PT Nationals GP
40
champion.
turns later, they still haven't cast a spell. Like, we're not really doing
And
anything.
SCG Open. He's also an SCG Open
I
champion.
was really
Eventually,
impressed by
we
the
get to
way
like
that he
8 mana
played
so
his
that we
deck,
can end step flashback
yesterday.
Ancient Grudge.
And now today,
Before untapping,
I'm thinking a little
I
bit
cast,
more about Lewis
I put a bunch
Laskin's
of
play.
mana. Cascade cast Bust,
I think that
blows up all the lands, and then
there's
I
a
went
moment
into
when
the
that first Lord comes down
because they're 40 life,
that the
right? So
idea
why
of
can't they 40
racing
out of 10?
really seems like maybe the bad way to go. You know?
No, I understand what you mean. But in the same right, if you you can't really try to play that attrition war, because if you
To be fair, he did not have the Caracas yet.
yeah.
He did not
So
have the
he
Caracas.
doesn't even know if he's drawing that Caracas. He didn't even have the Mangara yet.
Right. No, he actually, I believe he had the Mangara already. He had the Aether Vial ramping up. And
That way I don't have to, like, know how to play against cheap.
Okay, this
Really just over and over again. It's why I think they should run back Skull Clan, because then at least the format
is there a vial?
I showed it.
Alright, I'll go to 19. Mother Runes.
And we have a turn 1 Mother of Runes, which has been a key card for Lewis Laskin in the Merfolk matchup in the previous games, in the previous matches today.
Protection, it's a 1/1.
Any color. And any creature.
Lewis actually has 2 Mother of Runes in hand, so double Mother of Runes is often equivalent to your creatures just not being able to like lose in combat. People have joked that Chris always joked that 2 Mother of Runes says that your opponent can never attack and can never block.
Literally, if there wasn't a time limit on the last match, it actually would have ended faster. That makes me sick.
No.
And the
The,
timer clocks down. We have about 1 hour and 8 minutes left in this match. I don't think we're going to have to worry about hitting that, though.
Just making sure. Make sure nothing funny.
So the first Star City Games Open for the 2011 season in Richmond, Christian Calcano won the Standard event. And that gave him enough points that, along with his top 16 here, he's going to be in the lead.
Absolutely.
He was already in the lead then, and this just pushes him further in. Both players have a 1-drop. Lewis draws first turn. It's Pride Mage. He's probably feeling a little awkward about having kept a 1-lander on the play, but if you have 2 1-drops, it's completely reasonable. He actually has more than 2 1-drops. He also has multiple swords in his hand.
I mean, one of the things, again, is that Mother of Runes is really powerful in this matchup. I mean, what Mother of Runes means is that unless it gets submerged, there actually isn't a way for the Mother of Runes to be removed from the board. A card like Umezawa's Jit, which is very likely to come in from the board, won't actually be able to get any counters on it if it can't deal damage to something.
I mean,
You're the only one with repeatable damage to yourself. I don't have enough fetches.
That's a good point. You should just. You suggest.
Here we go. We have what is coming down now. So on the board, for those of you that can't see it, Lewis Laskin has a Horizon Canopy in play. That's a land from Future Sight. It taps for a colorless mana, or it taps for a white or green. Or no, it actually only taps for white or green and deals 1 damage to you, but you may pay 1 colorless and sacrifice it to draw a card. He also has 2 Mother of Runes in play. Corbin Hosler has a Silvergill Adept, a Curse Catcher, and 2 islands in play. Lewis drew the second land. Pretty tight time to do so. And he's deciding between a Stoneforge Mystic and a Kasali Pride Mage. Stoneforge Mystic seems like the right play to me.
There's a lot of possibilities here. I mean,
Stoneforge Mystic allows you to pass the turn the next turn, leaving swords open if you need to.
I would be
end the turn if you want to.
I would be thinking about baiting the days, though. I mean, I'd be thinking about days and just checking to see if it's there. And I would use that moment just to put out a card like that, a test card like Kasali Pride Mage, which might actually be very reasonable.
I feel like if a daze had been looming, it definitely would have dealt with the second Mother of Runes, so he would have had to have drawn it off the top.
That's fair. That's fair. The second Mother of Runes, unless he doesn't realize how important Mother of Runes is in the matchup.
I think this guy's bad. I was playing Bug yesterday. The guy had divided.
And, unless you study Isagripa.
Sword on it. That's all the colors in my deck.
That doesn't go.
I'm sorry, I was listening.
I'm not playing that. How many cards do you have? I have 4.
Lewis is joking with his opponent. Corbin's hand looks pretty stacked here. He has a Reejerey, another Curse Catcher here, and Lord of Atlantis.
You don't like double Mother Ring?
A few other cards that I can't really see right now.
I think I saw a daze.
You saw a daze?
I think I saw. I'm not sure.
I like your plan. The better you do.
It shows some good discipline that he didn't counter that Pride Mage there.
If that's in fact a daze, I might have misseen it. And Marrow Reejerey off of the third land. That is a really powerful drop right now.
Lewis has a pair of swords, so it's not as powerful as it may seem, but I mean, you only have so many swords. They have more lords than you have removal, which is pretty rough. I'd be interested to see if Lewis had sided in his paths or not. I'm surprised that Pride Mage is still in here, too.
I still like Pride Mage as a potential Umezawa's Jit answer if Umezawa's Jit gets out of control.
That's reasonable.
Boom. Me getting in on myself.
That's how I would have been in the world.
Swords.
They're top 8 That's how I top 8
Swords, potentially pulling a Force of Will, and there it is.
I'm not letting you get ahead
No,
of me.
it was 2 years ago.
You have 3 cards now?
Sure. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah,
3 excellent cards.
there were 2 times where it's the top 8 if I had played both of them.
All of them.
If I did the round value, it was close to 7,000. No, my deck was 7,000. Corbin probably about 14,000.
So, Lewis is contemplating an attack. It's completely reasonable. He'll get the Exalted trigger, and then it's very unlikely that Corbin's going to block because the Mother just makes it almost impossible to do so. I believe that brings Corbin down to 13. Lewis is still at 16.
There are 4 Mongars in the main deck of this list.
I swear I killed Jit.
That's kind of an odd thing. Like, you don't usually see a card like that as a 4-up, but it's clearly worked well for him this weekend.
Yep, can we touch PPs? No homo. The judge said no crossing swords.
So now this board is slowly growing, and as boards grow, things get more complex and games get harder. I'd be
Well, I mean,
I'm
again,
interested to see how the Marrow Reach reactivation goes this turn. I guess he's going to give the Pride Mage Pro Blue, and actually he still gets bashed for a lot of damage here. The guys all have 3 toughness, so they can just swing right into that Pride Mage, and Lewis is going to take a pretty big beating here.
oof.
And that guy's got 4. And that guy, Lewis,
10
cannot block.
damage after
Yeah.
the block.
Yeah, Lewis can block, but he's still taking a full 10, which is really, really rough for him.
I'm not sure how I feel about that aggressive play with that Mother of Runes, even without a Lord of Atlantis hitting. I mean, any merfolk will tap down one of the creatures before the combat begins. And then you can protect that with Mother of Runes, but you're still tapping a Mother of Runes.
7.
There's a big difference between being at 6 life and being at 9 life in this matchup.
14.
It's pretty huge, especially when your only white source in play is a Horizon Canopy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Lewis goes down to 6. Alright, so again, for those who can't see the board well, Lewis has a Horizon Canopy and a Beta Forest on the table, and he also has a Kasali Pride Mage and a pair of Mother of Runes. Corbin has a Curse Catcher, a Silvergill Adept, a Mirror Regery, a Lord of Atlantis, 2 islands, an Underground Sea, and a Mutavault. In hand, Lewis has at least a Mengar of Karandor. It's pretty deep in thought. This is a pretty difficult spot to be in.
I mean, swords here for the Regery.
It's convenient they drew the white. It's actually more relevant than one might think.
There we go.
And that's a Stoneforge Mystic.
Now, a daze in hand, I believe, will be able to take care of that.
Alright, so Corbin's hand now is just a Parish.
Just a.
Just a Parish.
Man. And
That
if he does
Mutavault
that,
is pretty rough.
if he does do the Parish, it means that he's going to only be able to hit with the Curse Catcher and do 2 damage.
2 cards.
Huh. He's tanking.
There's no way you're saying
It's still pretty rough for Lewis, though.
Oh, Lewis is in rough shape.
It's funny because I guess everyone's watching and I'm just looking at the board and I'm not even paying attention. I just don't want to look.
I mean, I'm losing this matchup on control.
And he was never really in these games. Surprising. Before, when we've watched him play Merfolk, it's been very heavily in his favor. So, Lewis Laskin ended up coming in 8th place here. He just made it on tiebreakers.
Here we go, Marrow Regery. I think that's a much better play than Parish.
Oh, he had a Regery in his hand?
Yeah, he had a Regery.
Ooh.
Tackling at those 2 creatures effectively just forces the Mother of Runes to tap. You know, what I would probably do here is I would double block and single block, protect the moms, and let the Kasali Pride Mage die. And that's not having anything to do with knowing that there's a Perish in hand. That's just getting rid of one of those merfolk and keeping your Mother of Runes.
That's true. I mean, that seems like it's almost certainly the right play. Mother of Runes just has so much value.
Absolutely.
It's also just so dangerous to take any damage at this point.
So tricksy you are. Like the hobbits.
Let's just trying to figure out what's going on here. At these later stages of the game,
Wow.
especially in elimination rounds, you definitely
Plays it
want to take it
safe.
there.
I mean, personally, I just like getting one of those merfolk off the table. I don't know that Kasali Pride Mage is of much concern to me as much as another body on the
It's a
table.
blue instant that gives a creature -1 toughness. It has like a bunch of other modes that are relevant.
All right, so this is it. Can Lewis find an answer? Looks like he top decked an Aether Vial. That's always
A little slow.
a little rough to top deck in the late game.
If you have a merfolk spell in hand, you're dead. You're dead.
Especially that Mutavault in play. It's just
I'll get back to you.
absolutely brutal.
If you just show it to me like you got me, I'm not gonna slow roll you.
I can get rid of blockers. It is not a creature, so
It's not cryptic command, is it? That's sick.
Yeah, Lewis hunched over, realizing that this is the end of the road for him.
Okay, so once again, this is Adrian Sullivan here with Star City Games Live, bringing you live coverage of the Kansas City Legacy Open Series.
And I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and we're currently watching the semifinals of the Legacy Open tournament. This is Lewis Laskin against Corbin Hosler. Lewis is playing a very interesting green-white version of Death and Taxes. He's done very well today. He's actually been crushing Merfolk all day. But Corbin has a Stranglehold in this game and his Epic game. Corbin is playing a blue-black version of Merfolk that has cards like Perish and Engineered Plague.
If you do not have merfolk, core blockers to your five creatures. That will leave it one light. You still have to find a removal spell. Which means, I hope that's not a daze. And I hope this is a pass.
So,
Which
here
goblins?
we are.
They're both goblins.
Again, so he's using the...
Chris was thinking one.
Wow, perfect. He drew the one card he needed there to not die on that turn. He drew swords directly off the top. So
I thought we said don't.
he's still in this game. He popped that Horizon Canopy, and there's swords on top of his deck. It's pretty convenient.
First pitcher said no, sir.
Wow, that is awesome. That's pretty awesome to watch. All right, here we go. Corbin still has the Regery in place, so things are very dangerous.
He's got a land, and then Perish, and then activate Mutavault.
Oh, he has the land now.
Yeah,
So
land, Perish, Mutavault,
that'll do
GG.
it.
It just returns all your merfolks to play.
So, again, Lewis Laskin's list is very interesting. If you're interested in decks like Death and Taxes in the Legacy format, you should be sure to check out these deck lists on StarCityGames.com.
Oh my god, I am really pumped about Lewis Laskin's deck.
Yeah, and Lewis is one of those guys who's always playing a cool new deck. Lewis had this insane blue-red Painter Servant deck that he was working on in the middle of the night last night, and then he just showed up this morning with a brand new deck that he had made. And that's just how Lewis goes. Lewis is always building new decks and always doing fun new things. So Lewis is going to see this Perish, he's going to see it and realize that the game is just over, packs it in, and that'll be it. I guess Corbin first has to activate this Mutavault. If he doesn't, then Lewis has a shot. But
I'm pretty sure he knows the play is there.
Yep,
Okay.
that'll do it.
So it's definitely going to be a Merfolk versus Goblins finals then for this event.
I'm going to give Mutavault protection from white. And,
So that'll do it.
yeah, right.
Lewis jokes
There
a
we
bit
go.
and then offers the hand for the shake. Corbin Hosler with blue-black Merfolk advances to the finals. It looks like we'll have a all-tribal finals. Merfolk versus Goblins in the finals of the Star City Games Legacy Open here in Kansas City.
Like my hand's Mangara, and I